All right. Yeah, welcome to Coach's Corner. We've had a little bit of an issue with some hardware, as it's challenging things always go. But welcome. Sorry, we're starting a little bit late. We're here at Boar's Head in Mar, which is in outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Got a couple of guests. Coach Ragnavldr is here. It's Grace. He was fighting in the tourney earlier today. And His Majesty, Wigthegn, right?
Yeah, Wigthegn.
Wigthegn. Yep.
Yeah, I just now, not Majesty.
I know. I'm sorry. Soon. He's coming. Hi, come on over.
Yes. Fantastic bounce of it. Well done.
Yep. So we're just kind of hanging out as the tournament is just concluded, kind of winded down. Let me move over here a little bit. This might be a little bit easier to see. We've got Duke Brannos also on from, he's back at home in Detroit and Duchess Rebecca. Kind of an interesting and fun day. The tournament here was what they call a flower tourney. So it's a kind of an open challenge tournament format where you would go and you'd find somebody you would want to fight. You agree to do 3 passes or 5 passes. Hey, come on over. We're live. I'm just describing kind of the format of the tournament. This is Count Rutger from the Mid-Realm. And it's good to kind of come over and hang out. And at any rate, the challenge is you go and you challenge another person or they challenge you, and you do 3 or 5 passes, whatever you'd like. And the victor, the defeated would go and get a flower and present it to the consort of the victor. And so the consorts are kind of actively involved as the day goes on, and they get flowers, which is kind of a neat way to integrate, as well as to have a lot of fighting going on at the same time. It doesn't have a lot of people standing around waiting for a list field to open up or what have you. So kind of interesting format. So
it seems to have worked out pretty well. People seem to be having a good time with it. The nice thing is you choose your opponents.
Yeah.
So you can kind of fight whoever you want. You can fight up or work on something with someone. A lot of people are asking for advice, so that's pretty cool. It's been casual but fun.
Yeah,
it's very fighter driven, which is refreshing.
Yeah,
You're not waiting around for the next round to start or somebody to do math or anything like that. It's just like, okay.
I talked a little bit to the list personnel. Like, this is a very low maintenance. We can kind of just walk away from the list table. It operates itself. So they kind of like it for that reason too. And there's still some pickups going on over there as well. So it just so happens all of you are visiting North Shield, and so welcome and thank you for coming. What did you think of today? Did you have a good time and
get
some decent fighting in?
Yeah, it was really good. It's great that the Mid-Realm and North Shield have this long history together.
Yeah.
So it still feels very welcoming, very much like home. I'm coming here. I know a number of the fighters on the armored list. I was just here, and I don't know as many of the rapier fighters, but it's still very similar in respect. So I love it. It was really fun because 15 years ago I was at Boar's Head when I was his retainer, Count Rutger's retainer when he was Prince.
Okay.
So 15 years later, I was like, hey, let's do that again, but let's flip roles.
Shoes on the other foot now.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So we made the trek up here last night. So
very cool.
It's every bit as fun as I remember it. Nice. So just have a good time. Like you said, it's everybody's hospitable. I'm regaining my sea legs in SCA fighting over the past couple of years. So I was out for a while, and events like this make it easy. So everybody's friendly, and it's nice that there's a few people from home that are here as well. But the people that the North Shielders are very hospitable.
Rutger and I were talking earlier today. He was explaining about how he's kind of took a bit of a break and was coming back to it. And this touches on our last episode about updating your fight or changing your fight or modifying it. And when you take a long break, whether it's with age or with weight or with injury, you sometimes have to refine your fight. And I've always looked at it like, sometimes you have to fight and learn a new body because your body is not the same as it was.
I think that's an excellent.
But your mind thinks it is because it remembers. But when you go to do what you knew how to do, and it doesn't want to do it anymore because either you're just not your condition. Your level of conditioning is not what it was, or maybe even your sense of timing or your sense of movement. Because we always shortcut. We think we take a big step, for example, and we're not taking a big step.
Right.
But your brain goes, "Well, I just took a big step," and everybody else is like, "No, you didn't."
Felt the same.
That's right. It felt the same, but it's not. So and that's an interesting thing for me as I've not only experienced it myself, but watch others that say, either, and I've never done this personally, but I've somebody say, I'm now 40 pounds heavier than I used to be. I can't cross as much ground as quickly as I used to. Or, another big one is I used to take very large steps, but I now got a knee injury. And if I slip, my knee is gone and I won't be able to walk it. And so now I've got to take my footwork and I got to tighten it up and clean it up because I can't risk the crazy athleticism I did as a younger person, right? And so it's, as we all age, almost every year you almost have a new body. It's just a little bit off, maybe not a ton off, and maybe even imperceptibly off until you start realizing, well, where are these gaps coming from of what I knew I could do before and watched myself do it, and now I'm not having the same success. Like what's
Let me piggyback on that. When you get into your 50s, that becomes exponential.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I mean, it does. It becomes exponential, and so it's the changes on a yearly basis are more drastic than the previous year.
Yeah.
So it's
Or your 60s.
Right.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not there yet. And
and it can even be cardio. You can have the same athletic body, and for 6 months you're not really doing much cardio, and maybe you counted on saying, I don't mind if I'm fighting, I want to wear out my opponent, and then realize, wait a second, I'm the one getting worn out. I can't breathe anymore.
I remember a line from a country song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I can be as good as I was once.
right. Take a punch because there's comments in there. So we're just got kind of a weird setup here. I've got a laptop away from the table group, and so it's oh, cool. Hello, Christmas tourney people.
Just talking.
Ragnavldr said this, and that it was a song I heard in Ireland from a band of men that were like the youngest guy was in his 90s. The drummer was 101, and the song that they sang was, "They tell me I have a great future behind me."
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Hey, on that point though, I'd like to bring up, that is a hard part, because I think it's somewhat hard physically, but I think it's actually harder mentally, because to get past
he says harder mentally. It's tough physically, but it's even harder mentally. And I think that's an astute observation. In fact, it can be even demoralizing when people come back after a long break and they think, well, I remember what this was like, and then it was suddenly the record scratches, and two things happen. A, their body isn't what it was, but the second is that a younger generation came up that was younger, active, and more on the leading edge of the technology of fighting and doing things that weren't done 15 years ago.
Yes.
That can happen too. Right. Right. Yeah. And I remember some of and I even hate to use this term for fear of having it come across as disrespect, but some of the old timers when I was younger that had been around the Dukes and whatnot, that were the top level fighters. And I remember watching them and kind of making note, because as a young man, I was pretty athletic and I actually liked using that. But I watched them like, they're not being athletic. In fact, they're kind of lazy. They really don't want to move around very much at all. But what little movement they did was very effective. Like they had honed that out. And that was kind of a good learning lesson for me of maybe I'm wasting energy. Maybe I could be. Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's when his fighting.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't have offspring.
No.
Okay, so there's that section about generational thing.
Yep.
Like, so on a personal note, And I laugh at it because my son's a minion, and he's making a name for himself in some degree, you know, as a fighter. So, although he's not as serious as he could be, point is, he was always introduced as Rutger's kid.
Okay.
Okay. And so the question then would become like, when is it going to turn so that I'm going to get introduced as Geminus's dad?
Okay.
Now on the comedy side, the minion's already doing that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so on a generational point, yeah, exactly. Like when are we going to yield? When are we going to be known by our offspring versus our offspring known by us?
Right.
So,
Right.
But you also get, I've never had kids.
Right.
That was a personal choice. But there are certain things you miss with that. You haven't decided it's been in the SCA, and there are times you take the inside the top.
right, right.
And that, I can only imagine what special feeling.
Oh my gosh. Well, we got Dragon's Tooths together. I mean, side by side, which was like, you can't beat that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. You can't beat
That is all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I think part of that, or I should say part of that, because obviously a parent and child relationship, there's nothing that's going to come close to that. But also seeing, as a coach, seeing your students go from absolute start of, please show me the first thing. Not that we may have an example of any of that, but to actually flourish on their own and become their own skill and see them reach their potential. Yeah, it is. It's very exciting. And, you know, a lot of people have asked me, like, okay, well, what do I like? What drives me? And whether it was teaching in the dojo or coaching people here, which I've done for quite some time in the SCA, like, I like celebrating the victories and the achievements that my students have. Like, whether that's, I understand this now, not even just winning a tournament or anything like that. Like, I get it. I know that, like, you see the light bulb and they get so excited. Like, that's such a contagious. It's, in my opinion, better than going out and vanquishing a foe. Like, when you help somebody and they have that, I'm so appreciative. Like, I couldn't believe I could do this. Like, now you know you can do it. Like, that's a huge thing. And fun. Like, but let's.
Learning and changing. I've been focusing on some stuff. What feels like mixed results, but for different reasons I haven't made it.
Let's do this real quick.
Yeah, we can move stuff. Yeah. It should have a. Move this out of the way.
So we can read it. Ron,
Yep. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Is that one seats?
You should be able to sit there.
There we go.
Yeah, sit right here, Ron.
Yeah, that's
Perfect right there.
Sorry, we're playing with our technical ability or setup here.
That's all right.
I'm a stage manager, so we're struggling.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that'll help us hear Ragnavldr much better.
Yeah.
It's probably better without me in the picture, right? So I was gonna say, for me, that I work on so many things at practice, and I'm realizing, like we've talked about with newer fighters at practice, you know, we always keep upping the level against them, and they don't feel like they always get success. And then they go fight out of the area, and they realize that they're actually doing really well. And I am finding that applies at the other end too. I'm working on things, but at practice, people know me. They know what I do. So regardless of whether it's good or bad, they're adapting to me. Right. And it's becoming difficult for me to clearly see what it is I'm actually doing wrong. So the opportunity to come out here and fight people who don't fight the same gives me a better gauge for self-analysis.
Your obstacles aren't static.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
not here. I almost would say they're sort of static here and not at home, because at home every practice they're adapting, right? So they're kind of moving along.
Right.
Here they don't really know. So
well, and when you add that thought, right, that comes back down to that positive feedback to yourself. Right. So, I mean, you have to go out and get that positive feedback so that you know what you are doing works. Because if you don't get that positive feedback, you just stop doing it.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. It's about that positive feedback. You're
Right.
getting the positive feedback when you go out of your local area.
Right.
In your local area, like you said, they're adapting to you. So every little minute change you make, they're adjusting and making a minute change on their side too. So it's very difficult, very rough. Back home, Cleflands and Brindleton, I have that same problem. I'm pushing myself, and I've got knights that are coming up to me and hitting me with new shots that I've never experienced from them before. I'm like, what's going on here, and all this stuff, and I'm just like, and so I'm pushing back on them very hard. But when I go to tournaments now, it becomes there's a noticeable improvement from myself because I'm going and I'm facing these guys that are doing all this stuff that other people are doing, but they don't know me well enough. So I'm able to pick up the blocks right because I had Sir Thorne, Sir Sirius, or Sir Crispin doing this to me week after week. And so I'm catching all this stuff. And so it's really cool. So even for me, who I'm in my 40s, there's definitely a difference in my natural ability. My natural ability doesn't take me as far as it used to. So I'm not out there gunslinging like crazy anymore. But I'm more methodical, I'm more planned, and I've got so much more experience now. I think what you were talking about is like that as you get older, you gain that more experience, and you learn that when you can tune down the just the raw natural aggression skill that you needed and use that more tactical thought process to be able to be. I can pick that up.
It's like a level of seasoning where you get that. And some of the times I remember being faced with it was, I remember the first time I went to Lily's War, and it was hotter than the hubs of hell, humid as all get out. I mean, basically people were growing gills to be able to try to breathe the water and air. And it was so oppressively hot. And like, guess what? On the athletic level, I want to do.
Yeah.
Not much. Like it's like, let's dial down the athletics because this is just challenging enough to go walking around because it was so bleak hot. People have trouble breathing. And I do remember this when the Outlanders would come down because they would always come down to Lilith War. And they're coming down from 5,000 feet elevation. They're like, we go down to the lowlands, and they're like, they're running everywhere because
they're high on oxygen.
Yeah, they're high on all the juice in the world. And then they took a couple of lungfuls of that 98% humidity. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
it was kind of humorous. I mean, I love the Outland fighters, and I'm jealous of them. Like, if you get to train at a mile high, and now you go into a lower elevation, you have like a superpower, you know. But it was kind of okay. It's like a type of doping. And I remember the reverse was true when I went up to the Black Hills. There was an event out there, and we went up to. It wasn't even 5,000. It was like 3,600 feet, I want to say. And I remember we were doing this melee out in the bluffs and whatnot. We're running around there. 25 minutes later, my skin's all tingling, and I'm starting to see little sparkles and stuff. Like, whoa, okay, not very much oxygen up there. Right. So I'm like, all right, I got to take a break.
We're not used to that, right?
Yeah,
so
you're not used to it. And you're not going to get used to it. You drive up to the event on a Friday, you go out and fight on a Saturday. It ain't going to happen.
Hey, Tristan, I'm going to date you. That I believe that Lily's was in 92.
92.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
dogs. That would have been early 90s, back before Lily's turned into the anvil of God, weather destroying everything. It was just pure, raw, hot, and humid. And I remember basically trying to go to sleep and laying in my cot or the bed or whatever I had. And like, I don't want any skin touching other skin because it just you get a sheet of sweat. And you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna go party because I can't sleep. Like whatever. Exactly.
I get to hydrate.
But I remember one of the big things I remember from that war was another lesson I took away. I want to be able to get out of my armor in less than 2 minutes. I don't want to be dicking around unlacing things and unwrapping, and I want to be able to get in my armor because they would go in the morning, they'd fight for about half hour, 45 minutes, take their armor off, go down to the lake, cool off, come back, get in their armor, fight again, take the armor off, go back down to the lake, come back. That was the cycle of the event because it was you could not stay in your armor for 4 hours. You would just completely wilt. So I'm like, all right, I need armor that I can get out of, get into quickly. So, and I went back to the drawing board and redesigned everything so that I could do that.
Yeah. Although that is where you
that was the 90s, early to mid 90s. There was about 4 or 5 years where that was the standard. And then came the water spout year where we got hit by
I heard about that.
massive, like it just destroyed. There was a huge windstorm and that was nice. And that happened for several years. It was big storms.
Yeah, one of those years, I think I waved to you.
I was like going down there. It was a great cross of Outlands people. Mid-run would show up. There'd be a few Bjorns that would come. People from Northfield would be there. Callantyr would always show up. You know, of course, that was their homeland. So they're like crazy. But
you were saying, Brannos?
I said that was also the first year that you tried kamikazes on people. And,
I don't know about that. Actually, when we first went, Osric and Iron Wolf were doing Strawberry Surprise. I remember that being down there, and that predates the kamikaze party by about a year or two.
Right, and you were carrying a bucket of kamikazes at the end of that event, and you gave me one.
I'm sorry, can't quite hear you.
I said you were carrying a bucket of kamikaze, like a jug of kamikazes, and you gave me a kamikaze at the very end of that event and said, "You're testing to see if you want to take it to Penzing."
Hang on, I think we got a volume issue with it. Do the fourth button over should raise the
It
volume.
looked like it just went up some.
Yeah, it's just
Oh, did? Okay.
try again, Brannos.
All right, I don't. Maybe it's on my
I
side.
don't think you can get too loud. You can probably crank it back.
That's okay. Go ahead, keep going. You might have lost your Blues.
Okay. But yeah, that was. I remember the Strawberry Surprise lasted for about 4 years or so, and then they scrapped it because it was just kind of too much of a mess. But that was the era we started the kamikaze party at Penzing, and then of course it was a big hit at Lily's too because it's cold and it's tasty and whatnot, and we tended to destroy quite a few kingdoms without having to actually go fight them.
Well, that's a good way of destroying kingdoms.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I got to remember that.
Yes. Oh, it works. Yeah. What do we say? We are. We don't call it enabling. We call it hospitality.
Right.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I can get down with that. Hospitality.
That's right. So yeah, I think what have we been doing here for time? I don't know. What's it live? 23 minutes. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you people that have been logged on and have been commenting. Our little setup is kind of difficult with staff to have check notes, but it's cool that people have jumped on. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to toss in? This was kind of one of our first, not the first, but live podcast from an event. It's my first time, so this was kind of me getting my technical feet wet with how do I set all this stuff up and whatnot. So it's cool that you could join us. I'm glad you guys came out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to come out here. Like I said, we're looking forward to Penzing and all that stuff. So
yeah. So Penzing could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Second time we're on Crown and things like that. So we're on Crown back in October, and Her Highness and I we're all over the place at the moment. So.
Oh yeah, I bet.
She's someplace else right now.
Yeah. Her Highness is on Steoria right now.
Oh, on Steoria.
Yeah, so she's watching their Crown tournament. So I have to go check my phone here in a moment to see who is the heirs of Steoria.
Yeah. So, well, we could cheat. We are online here. So if anybody happens to figure out or see who's winning Ansteuer Crown today, we'd love to hear. Yep. On that note, somebody put up that from Christmas tourney, the victor is Duke Kellick.
Oh, okay. Great.
And Arctrix came in second.
Okay. So that's a repeat for Art because he came in second last year. And the winner last year was Duke Ula. So I don't think Duke Kellick has won this tourney before.
Okay.
So, so Christmas tourney is becoming like one of the more premier tourneys in the mid-round.
I know Candlemas was, but we're not having it this year. And I heard rumor never again or something.
Yeah.
I know nothing about it.
It's unfortunate that we're not having them in this because, from a mid-round perspective, that was our big tourney. That was the 100+ people.
Hey, come on over. Have a seat.
How you doing? Rasheen has joined us.
Yeah, Rasheen joined us. She's kind of off camera, but that's okay. Come on over.
We can fix that.
Yeah, let's move her around a little bit.
Yep, I can go.
So, but yeah, Candlemass was the premier tourney. So, but now, kind of taking its place in the mid realm is Grand Day of Tournaments in November or late October in Pinamere, Michigan, and Christmas tourney in Lexington. No.
Yes.
Is it Lexington?
I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Lexington.
So down in our South Oakland, Kentucky region. So those are becoming the big ones. So I think the winner this year of Grand Day of Tournaments was Duke Brannos, who's on the camera.
Yeah.
So good job, Brannos.
Sorry. Yeah, Brannos won the tournament. I don't think anybody's ever heard of that.
A lot of people were surprised. They were like, "You still fight?"
Actually, let's ask you this, because one of the last times we talked about this before, and I'm hesitant to bring this up because we've talked about this kind of thing and wondered if we should share it. But at the level we're at, we're very critical of ourselves, and we can still be victorious in a fight without being what we would call successful.
Oh, Jason.
Right? We've talked about that in other tournaments where we've both won tournaments and not been happy with how we did in them, and still were victorious. So in your last tournament win, was that like that, Brannos, or was this a different one for you?
So, I think I took a different viewpoint on that one. And, it's like, I just did what I did. If it worked out, I was super excited every fight for the other person. And I was looking for stuff I could fix, and it's like, oh, I could do that better. I could do this better. And if I won, I won. And then that day, I was probably more excited for the person that came in second place than myself.
That's awesome. So you were happy with your fighting?
Are you ever super happy with your
Well,
fighting?
yeah. I guess within I guess that's a point. We have to clarify. We're never happy with it. So you were content with it? But I'm guessing the point from that is you went in with that attitude of, instead of being super critical, which is my method. You went in saying, I'm gonna do the best I can and see what I get out of this, and I don't care about the victory or loss. I want to do a good fight, and that's what you had. So even if you'd lost, you would have been content.
Well, I didn't lose, so I couldn't tell you if I would be content. I guarantee you I probably wouldn't be content. But, in the end, and this is becoming a big, huge word just in the last year, and that's being grateful. And really, I'm still just grateful. I've been using that word since I got my new shoulders. I am just grateful that I could actually still fight and be around all my brothers.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So I think it kind of tying back to what you guys were talking about earlier with just the youth, or some of the younger crowd coming in. His Grace fought one of our unbucks, Americ, in the finals.
Really?
And that was a case where you saw someone who has natural athleticism fighting His Grace Brannos, and Brannos was able to take advantage of that expertise, of that tactical nature of what he was doing to be able to weather the storm with Americ. Because Americ, he's a fast fighter. He's a really good fighter. He was one of the unbelted champions that we put into the heroics at Hinton earlier this year, and won his fight. So His Grace had to weather a storm from this super fast, about the same size. It was funny. They looked almost identical, except for mirror of each other.
Okay.
Because Americ is left-handed.
Oh, okay.
And so, it's interesting to watch how His Grace Brannos has adapted his fight to be able to fight a younger generation, and also to see a younger generation do as well as he did throughout the day. Which, for an unbelt to get that far in that tournament, that's not normal.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's very rare. So,
Yeah.
So it was really great. And then, and speaking of unbelts and tourneys, the Atlantean Crown tournament too.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have watched the videos of that.
I have not seen that.
Lord Godfrey, Gilfrey, something like that. A unbelt who was out there and looked very, very unbeltish. His dress, like he was wearing good, proper clothes, but you could tell he's a younger fighter.
Sure.
Had to be mid-20s.
Really?
Final against Count Auburn.
Okay.
So, and it was impressive to say the least.
That is cool.
Here's a younger fighter who has a few years in the SCA. I'm not sure exactly the number, but the natural talent and athleticism that he had took him all the way to the Grand Slam finals, which that's the first time that's ever happened since Duke Ragnavldr won his crown tournament.
Wow.
So
I've never seen an Atlantean crown, but I've understood that they're usually very deep. There's a lot of competition in those, and it's kind of like Amsterdam crowns tend to be. It's and the way they do them in Amsterdam, they fold them so the top precedent fights the bottom first, and it's like you are guaranteed then if you are an unbelt that you're going to get a Duke probably in the first round.
Right.
And the theory being, you're going to win this tournament, you're going to have to go through these people anyway, so might as well do it.
And I saw in the comments that Duke Jason won Monster crown.
Oh,
so I mean, I know he was one of the 2 Dukes in the tournament.
Okay.
Duke Preppin, the 2 big tall 2-foot fighter.
Sure.
From the Duke spin line of fighters.
Right.
And then Duke Jason.
Okay.
So I'll be interested to see the video of that one and see like how that fight played out. I don't know if they were in both the finals together, but I know Preppin finaled against His Majesty Jean Paul.
Okay.
So that's who. It was like it went down to like they were even to the very last fight.
Wow.
So,
that's
Boy,
great.
we have some.
Very excited. I love watching crown tournaments and high-end tournaments because it's like watching playoff football or this World Cup where you're seeing the best on their game day. I always get excited about that.
Except that it's in a sport that we play, so you can actually appreciate the nuance.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So, well, thank you for coming over, Roisin. Did you have fun today fighting? That's the stupidest question on the planet.
Right.
But,
it was fighting.
Yeah, exactly. So it looked like people were having a lot of fun. The challenge journey format seems to be popular.
For those who don't know, Roisin's been doing something that all of us talk about, but he's taking it to heart, and that is consistent and frequent Pell work and working on different things on the Pell and then getting feedback on that. So if you don't mind, can you talk a little bit about how that's gone for you, what it's been like to work on the Pell, and what differences have you seen in your fight?
Well, right now working on the Pell is a pain because it's 25 degrees outside.
Yeah.
We're 16 and my garage is not heated.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit of a change in the last couple of weeks. I'm trying some new stuff that honestly I'm still struggling with. So working that out on the Pell, I find is if I can't do it on a stationary Pell, the chances I'm going to do it against a live opponent, especially if there's any pressure, if it's not just practice, I feel like pretty much zero. So I want to do everything on the Pell that I might do in a fight, including just standing there and throwing, and then moving and throwing, and possibly throwing a different shot first, and then coming to that one as a second in a combo or something. I occasionally try to imagine if I threw this, maybe I throw it in slow motion, and I'm thinking about, well, where would my Bob Pell see that I'm open? Where would they likely try to strike me, and what would I do about that?
Right.
Okay, so maybe I lift my shield. Well, then their sword is somewhere else. Does that leave something open? I kind of just, when I get tired of just throwing the same shot a million times, I try to break it into I think of it as a tree of if then.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always go back to the beginning and saying if then. Well, if it wasn't headshot, maybe they threw a leg shot instead. Then that's a different branch of the tree.
So you're kind of combining visualization of, okay, if my opponent threw and I dodged it, what's the next opening that would be there? And then practice the shot that would go in there.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've always loved visualization and found it to be when I couldn't be in armor, I couldn't be on my Pell, which I always hated the Pell, because I was doing it wrong for a long time.
Right.
But that visualization helped a lot for me to plan out like you said, the if then. I shift, I move, I see this opportunity, and then what I would do is kind of play a recording. If I saw my opponent do something, I'd play that back and I would picture, okay, I either didn't make the right decision or I didn't make any decision, but what decision should I have made? What would have been the wise counter or the wise adaptation? So yeah, it's easy to get very bored on a Pell, but if you add the visualization component in there, and especially when you have unusual targets, and I love Bob's for that because they have different angles that you can hit. It's just going after a cylinder, like a typical old school Pell is not as, it doesn't give you that complexity.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing I like the most about because she's allowed to see some video of it, and that's the thing I like the most. Is because I hate things that are repetitive and boring.
Yep.
And bells can absolutely be repetitive and boring. And but when I watch, that's what I see. I see you working through a thing, not just. I don't see mindless swinging. I see you thinking. Sometimes, technically, you throw shots and then it wouldn't land right, and then you take a moment to process. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? What makes it work? And then make corrections, cleaning up the shots. But then there's this whole other level of tactical. What happens when I throw the shot when I'm moving left, moving right, cutting back, standing still? There's a whole tactical layer to it. And what I like about that is it gets you all the Pell practice, but it's not mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah. It's not like doing push-ups.
Yeah. Push-ups are great.
That's right. And your body's working away, and your mind is just going.
Thinking only about how much pain you're in.
You're right. When is this going to be over?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have 2 practices a week, but I never feel like that's enough. So I want the Pell to help in between.
Yeah. So somebody talked about if you get the ratio, you have to forgive me, but I thought it was something like if you do a thing like this every twice a week or something like that, that's enough to keep you at whatever level you're at.
Like a maintenance?
Yeah, would it be once or twice a month is like maintenance. You can expect no improvement, but if you could get to twice a week, twice a month, you probably won't drop. If you any more you increase that, you start to increase the slope. And twice a week is a fair amount, but when you look at things like boxers and MMA players, they're not practicing twice a week.
Yeah, twice a day.
Yeah. So we don't need to be doing twice a day.
And they're going off a lot of different things as a practice.
Yes.
So they're not just like typically our practices are sparring.
Right.
Yeah.
We just spar. And so they're going in weightlifting, they're doing cardio training, they're doing all
Drills,
technical
flow training, which I think is tremendously valuable. A lot of premier trainers do, and that's you guys know what you're talking about. You're training champions, and you say, hey, just going out and rolling or doing the fighting part, if you really want to get stuff out of it, that flow drill stuff.
Yeah.
Low pain, low injury. It's not an endurance event. It is a technical study. And
anyway, that's what I like about it with the fellows. It allows her to, like she said, 2 practices a week are good. But she's like, that's not good enough for me. I want more. And then she's found a way to proactively do that and then make it valuable as opposed to just, again, mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah. So, well, that's very cool. They're setting up for court. It looks like we probably need to get moving here, but what is
about the pickup tree? Yeah. So I think that with Duke Jason. So Duke Jason is one of the stalwarts at the pickup tree.
Okay.
At golf course. And so at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning,
all right.
It was the last 2 years. You see Duke Jason with his cart walking to the pickup tree to set up stuff and be out there on the list fighting the whole time.
Gulf Wars was always by far my favorite pickup venue. Yeah. There's kind of second. Of course, I haven't traveled to every event in the known world, but that one was always up there my favorites.
The second half of the first week of Pennsic is exceptional.
Yes.
But the beauty of Gulf Wars is for us, especially up in the middle of the Northern Kingdoms, is it tends to be a much wider range of fighters we're not used to fighting. Right?
Yeah.
So that's extremely valuable to us.
Yeah.
And they fight differently. That's such a value to us to go down and take a piece of that.
Yeah, getting that Ansteyorian or the Robin, Trimaris style of fight coming at you, and it's just it's totally different.
Yeah.
One of the nights here, Master Bela or not night master runs. You know, Outlands, Tremors, now doing Northshield, completely different fight than what I'm ever used to
gosh, yeah.
with the upside down sword in his hand. And you know, just realizing he's coming for that pocket thrust right here on the hip constantly.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't want that. Like,
Stop doing that.
but
We got him earlier. His shield broke. That's why he wasn't using his shield.
Oh, really?
so, but yeah, it's different out there too, because like I mean, you see a lot more of the modded style fights, you know, especially in Astoria now. A lot of those guys are doing a lot of that. I know
Okay.
Duke Gunnar from Tremors, you know, with his axe.
Yep.
You know, always counting on a punch to the face.
Yeah.
If I mess
And he's
up.
been doing that for decades.
Yeah, that's a long standing. It actually kind of got it.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
But yeah, that's definitely something. And you don't see those guys aren't showing up at the first week of Pin. First week of Pins, like you see a lot of mid realm, a lot of East Kingdom, Ethelmark, you know, those type of guys. Some of the No Shield other guys that come out. So some Atlanteans, yeah. So it's definitely interesting. So then I know they're going. We went out to Duke Sean's to do the training practice out there.
Right.
That looked awesome.
And that was awesome the other year that we did that.
I think it's again this year.
What's that?
I think it's happening again this year. So
It is.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's happening in March, I think. So
yeah, I thought it was right on top of the Ethelmark event, though.
yeah, not sure if it's on top of Adult Swim or not. So I'd have to take a look at that again.
It is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Or the week before, one of the two.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we'll probably we'll wrap up the show here, but we have a really fun conversation, and thank you everybody for joining us. Please let us know kind of how this went. I'm curious because I can only hear it from this side. I can't hear how it sounds from the outside, but we'll definitely check it out and look at us for more events. You know, chat with us. Even when we're not doing a show, we love having people, you know, come and talk to us about, hey, can you help me out? Our hearts are in fighting and in helping each other and helping others. So never think, and I know you maybe get the impression here that we've got a white hole going on because we're all knights, right?
Yeah.
But and that some people can say is very intimidating, but we love having people show interest and passion in fighting, even if you're just starting out the very first day. Like, we would love to talk to you, and no, we're not going to, you know, overwhelm you with stuff that you don't even understand, because we'll try not to. But we were there. Every one of us started out that very first day, and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't even know how to ask or what to ask to get started, right? And so we want to help people through that too. And the same thing goes for coaching, because you're in a small group and you want to help other people who don't know how. You know, we'd love to help people learn to do that too, because that's how we all get better. Right, exactly. Learn from our mistakes. So I guess we'll wrap everything up. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Rasheen, it's great to be here. Appreciate it. Thank you. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, everybody.
Cut that out.